Welcome to the darker side of medicine, the podcast of nightmares. Dim the lights, settle in, and wander with me into the unnerving landscape of my disturbed, subconscious mind. Because sometimes the scariest stories aren't fiction, they're symptoms. Tonight's episode, The Damned. I had decided to join an exclusive summer theater program. The camp was held within the center of the city in a large church on private grounds. It had beautiful tree landscaping, a small cemetery and mausoleum out back, with winding stone pathways surrounded by an ominous 15-foot-tall wrought iron fence and gate. The church itself was incredibly spacious, with a gigantic stage perfect for a community performance. The night of the show finally arrived, and the church was rapidly filling with spectators. The event organizers were calmly ushering guests to their seats, but kept exchanging strange glances. Something felt off. Having gotten to know the layout of the building quite well over the preceding weeks of rehearsals, I had the inclination to find an escape route. There was the small stone door covering an ancient passageway behind the stage, down a kind of deserted hallway only about 4 feet in height. While the other participants were occupied getting ready and the organizers kept busy with guests and seating, I started hauling out water, snacks, and blankets to the mausoleum out back. Once I felt I had done enough, I continued to get ready with everyone else, but watched the organizers closely. As the lights dimmed and the orchestra began to tune their instruments, the organizers proceeded to quietly bar every door from the main cathedral other than backstage. I swallowed hard. Something was very, very wrong. During the first act, I watched with trepidation as every window was also barred. I screwed up my performance because I was so distracted, forgetting the words and missing an entrance. Then I had to move, and move quickly. I began to usher out the younger children through the passageway to the mausoleum. Every few minutes I would find someone and send them down. I found more food and more blankets and made my way outside. The mausoleum was packed with kids, hiding underneath the blankets and shivering. I took a look around the property, and the tall iron gates were also chained together. I had to go back in and get more blankets and more people out. After I had crawled back into the church, my knees sore from the stone and fingers white with cold, 2 strong hands grabbed hold of my shoulders as I rounded the corner. I was caught, but not before I had replaced the small stone opening. The performance was abruptly halted. Organizers were now separating all the guests and performers into groups of about 20. Each group was sequestered into a different section of the main cathedral. Some on the second floor, others on different sections of the staircase, one unfortunate group standing petrified on the stage. Our group was off to one side, near the front. Each section had been outfitted with a particular method of torture. On the second floor, the first section turned into an ice floor, with jets spewing freezing cold water onto the group. We could only watch as their skin turned pale, their lips turned blue, and their bodies curled and contorted into impossible shapes. Then joints and bones began to break. People were falling, fainting, cracking to the floor. When the jets stopped, only one person could be seen expelling visible breath. One of the organizers picked up a sledgehammer and finished the job. Her skull cracked open, and the blood was sludgy and thick from the cold. The second group's floor gave way to burning coals. The colorful orange and yellow ripple of low flames began to blister and char the feet and legs of the second group. Fire came out of the side walls in 3-foot torches. Flesh turned red, turned white and pussy. Faces began to melt downwards. I had to look away. When the screaming stopped, there were blackened carcasses scattered on the floor, bits of ash filling the air. I hadn't noticed that the third section had already started at the base of the stairs. There was a puddle of water up to their ankles. Before I could surmise the method of their destruction, 4 organizers dropped flexible netting on top of the group. Sparks flew as bodies thrashed and lights flickered as they were electrocuted. The light show began as a chaotic lightning storm, then sputtered until no living cell remained. Group 4 was standing on stage. I could hear people crying, though the screaming had quieted. People were retching on the floor. The smell of urine and sweat and burning hair and the taste of ash were all in the air. Jagged blades protruded up and began to oscillate at the front of the stage. The back of the stage slowly began to rise. I could not watch. I made a run for it. Several of us did. I sprinted for my life to that passageway. I threw the stone door to the side and army crawled as swiftly as I could. A few people had followed me and we were making it out, but others had been captured. Their screams pierced the night. We ran. One child was just small enough to fit between the bars of the gate, so we coaxed him to run and get help as fast as he could, as the rest of us waited by the gate. After what felt like hours, but was surely only about 10 minutes, sirens and blue lights grew. When an entire battalion of police finally opened the church doors, no one was left. Only the children hiding in the mausoleum and the few of us that escaped were alive. The butchered bodies were scattered in the cathedral. The organizers had all slit their own throats. The building was eerily silent. It would be nearly impossible to identify any of the victims. My eyes open. Thank you for listening to The Darker Side of Medicine. I'm your host, Scary Carrie. Sweet dreams.